Hello everyone, I am Prince Mishra. In our GS syllabus detailing session, today's session is of geography and today's topic is geomorphology. So in this session, we will discuss that what are the topics that are supposed to be studied under the geography component of the geomorphology. So let's begin. As far as geomorphology is concerned, geomorphology topic is associated in UPSC syllabus topic of India and World Geography, Physical Geography. So it is component of the Physical Geography. Also in the main syllabus, it is part of the salient features of World Physical Geography. So geomorphology is part of the salient features of the World Physical Geography. Also, some topics of the geomorphology is under the important geophysical phenomena such as earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic activity. So these are the topics of geomorphology. So these are the few topics that are mentioned in the prelims syllabus and the main syllabus. But some of the topics which are not mentioned but needs to be studied. So we will discuss in this session which of the topics you are supposed to study under the geomorphology. The very first topic about the geomorphology that you are supposed to study is the interior of the earth. As far as geomorphology is concerned, the topic mainly deals with the study of the landforms on the earth's surface and the processes which creates them. So because geomorphology as a discipline mainly deals with the landforms study, so it is very important to understand that where those landforms are. Because the landforms are present over the earth's surface, that is why it is important to understand that what is the structure of the earth, how this earth evolved in that different structure. So under this interior structure you will get to know the different layers. So different layers you are supposed to study, how these layers evolve, what are the different relevance of those layers, how some of the layers in liquid mediums, why some of the layers are in solid medium, what is the relevance of this liquid medium and solid medium. So that is also supposed to be understood. In fact, this interior structure of the earth study will also give you some insight about the interesting forces like geomagnetism. So earth behaves like a magnetic bar, and that magnetic bar is mainly associated with the interior layer, mainly the outer core from where the earth gets magnetized. So these are the topics you are supposed to study. Then you also need to study the rocks. So earth is made up of rocks, but there are different types of the rocks, and these different types of the rocks differs from when these materials have been formed, in which time period they have been formed, whether they are of hard, whether they are of coarse grain, whether they are of fine grain. So depending upon all these, there are different types of rock. So there are three types of rock that you are supposed to study. So we have a igneous rock, also sedimentary rock, and the metamorphic rock. So these are also needs to be studied under the topic of rocks. When you have covered these two topics, then comes the most interesting part of the geomorphology, that is the continent and ocean building theories. Basically, the most primitive form of the landform on the earth's surface, primary landform on the earth's surface, happens to be the continent and ocean. So how these continents and ocean came into existence once the earth came into existence, so that you are supposed to study under this. And there are different concepts, there are different theories that are supposed to be studied. So the very first theory which has given a answer of this question, that how this continent and ocean came into existence, you are supposed to study under the continental drift theory of Wegener. So continental drift theory of Wegener you are supposed to study. Then we have a concept of seafloor spreading. So you are supposed to study the topic of seafloor spreading. The seafloor spreading evidence has been given by ocean floor sampling. So ocean floor sampling needs to be studied. Along with this, the concept of Paleomagnetism needs to be studied. And in the end, the most important concept, the most important theory is that is plate tectonic theory. Plate tectonic theory. Within the plate tectonic theory, it is important to understand the different types of plate. So, different types of plate, the different type of plate interaction, the different types of plate boundaries. Not only the different types of plate boundaries like convergent, divergent, and transform, but also the different landforms associated with these boundaries. What happens in case of convergent, what happens in divergent. In case of convergent, there will be further 3 types of convergent: continent, continent, convergent. So, first you need to study the plate boundary. There are 3 types of plate boundary. Within the convergent, again there will be 3 different type of convergent that you are supposed to study. So, ocean convergent, ocean continent convergent, and continent convergent. So, basically plate, there are only 3 types of boundary, but if you will elaborate it, then it will comes out almost 5 different type of boundaries that you are supposed to study. So, you are supposed to study divergent boundary, divergent of the continent, divergent of the ocean. So, within the ocean, how the divergent is happening? Within the ocean, it will be case of seafloor splitting, and over the continental divergent, it will be the case of rift valley, the case of Great African Rift Valley. Then we have ocean convergent. Ocean convergent is like most of the Indian Ocean, most of the Pacific Ocean, case of ocean. Then we have ocean continent convergent. Ocean continent convergent is like Rockies, Andes, these are the cases of ocean continent convergent. And the continent convergent like the very famous our Great Himalaya. So, these are the plate boundaries that you are supposed to study, and along with that the different landforms. Landforms are more important for your GS purpose. In case of GS, their orientation is not much to check your direct knowledge. So, rather than directly asking you to question that discuss the plate boundary, their focus will be more on asking the question like how the mountains are formed on the surface, why the mountains are located, where the mountains are present, why the mountains are present on the margins of the continent. So, this is the type of question that they will ask, means more orientation will be how the boundaries are associated with the landforms. So, which of the landforms associated with which plate boundary, वो भी आपको समझना होगा. Then along with the boundaries, there are few geophysical phenomena. So, we call it as geophysical phenomena. Geophysical phenomena like earthquake, so how the earthquakes occurs, where the earthquakes occur, earthquake distribution, methods to measure earthquake, so that you need to understand. Similarly, when it comes to the volcano, in volcano also the distribution of volcano, types of volcano, the types of volcano will also give the different types of landforms. So, volcanic landforms, you are supposed to study. Earthquake, volcano is nothing but it is an extension of the plate boundary. So, it is very much associated with the plate boundary. Then comes the topic of tsunami. So, tsunami again how the tsunami occurs, causes of tsunami, distribution of tsunami, prediction of tsunami, early warnings related to tsunami. So these are the topics: earthquake, volcano, tsunami. These are nothing but these are the extension of the plate boundary. Wherever the plate boundaries are, there only you will have the geophysical phenomena. So these are the plate margins related phenomena. So these are the topics that you are supposed to study. Then we have a topic of landslide. This is a topic which you need to prepare within the perspective of India mainly. So within the perspective, in general, landslide is a topic of disaster management, but from the landslide they regularly ask the question in the GS paper 1. So GS paper 1 में question पूछे जाते हैं और GS paper 1 में the question they ask is primarily related to the India. So in India, where the landslide occurs, causes of landslide, landslide prone areas needs to be studied. So causes of landslide, landslide prone areas needs to be covered. And then comes the second part of our geomorphology, and that is geomorphic process. Geomorphic process mainly covers the another part of the geomorphology, as the geomorphology is the study of landforms and the processes which creates them. So in the processes there are different processes, endogenic and exogenic. Endogenic processes are mainly sourced from the inside of the earth. So the source of force comes from inside, and the second one is exogenic force. Exogenic force comes from the outside. So exogenic force is primarily associated with the geomorphic processes denudation. In denudation, we have a combined effect of three different processes. So you are supposed to study the phenomena of weathering. Other than the weathering, you are also supposed to study the mass wasting and erosion. So under the geomorphic processes, you are supposed to study weathering, mass wasting and erosion. In the weathering, you are supposed to study types of weathering. So in types of weathering, we have a mechanical weathering, physical weathering, chemical weathering, biological weathering. So these are the different types of weathering. In which climatic condition, in which part of the world, which type of weathering is more prevalent. Weathering is the initiation process of the landform development. Then comes the mass wasting. Mass wasting is also referred as mass movements. In mass movement, there are different types of mass movements, like you will have the landslide, like you will have the flow, slide, debris flow, solifluction. So there are different types of movement that are being considered as the mass movement or the mass wasting. And in the end comes the erosion. When we say erosion in geomorphic process, erosion is the inclusive of three different processes, that is removal of material, transportation of the material and deposition of the material. So erosion, transportation and deposition combinedly is referred as erosion. Now this erosion as well as deposition as well as transportation is being done by the geomorphic processes. तो आपको erosion पढ़ना है, you are supposed to study the erosion, you are supposed to study the deposition, you are supposed to study the transportation, but all these being done by the geomorphic agents. So which of the agents you are supposed to study? The geomorphic agents like wind, a river, glaciers, groundwater, sea waves. So these are the different geomorphic agents that you are supposed to study. And what you are supposed to study या GS के लिए आपको कितना पढ़ना, because this is a topic which is a very broad, the scope is very broad, so you need to understand that when you are preparing for the GS you need to limit your scope, otherwise it will take your lots of time. तो आपका बहुत सारा टाइम चला जाएगा केवल लैंडफॉर्म के स्टडी करने में, और यहाँ से जो क्वेश्चन आ रहा है वो प्रीलिम्स में आपको एक क्वेश्चन मिलेगा, and in mains also you will get not more than one question. That is also not sure that every year you will get. So that is why it is very important to understand that what extent you are supposed to prepare this topic. In this topic what you just need to do is you just need to prepare the erosional landform and the depositional landform. So the only thing that you are supposed to study is erosional landform created by the wind, depositional landform created by the wind. So the list of some of the major landforms: erosional landform created by the river, where the river creates erosional landform, where the river creates depositional landform, where the glaciers create erosional landform, where the glacier creates depositional landform. The same is the groundwater as well as sea waves. Like whenever you will go to the coastal area, in coastal area you will find that we have the bays, we have the gulf, we have the bights. So bays, gulf, bights, these are the landform that has been created by the erosional activity of the sea waves. Similarly, when you will visit the beaches, so the beaches are the landforms that has been created through the deposition of the materials brought by the sea waves. So beaches will come in the category of depositional landform, whereas the gulf, bays, these will be part of the erosional landform. Very similarly, when you will go to the mountainous area, hilly area, where the river is flowing, like the Ganga river is flowing. So in the hilly area you will find the cataract, you will find the rapids, you will find the waterfalls. These are the landforms which will fall in the category of erosional landform. Very similarly, if you will trace the same Ganga river and you will reach to the coastal area where the Ganga is draining into the ocean, that is the Bay of Bengal, there you will find the Ganga river is known for the construction of, creation of the famous, world famous delta, Sundarban delta, the world's largest delta. So this delta will come under the category of depositional landform. So this is how you just need to understand that which of the landforms created by the wind, rivers, glaciers, groundwater, sea waves are the erosional and which of the landforms are the depositional. So these are the topics that you are supposed to prepare for the geomorphology. Now let's quickly look out some of the questions that is being asked. Like in mains examination questions, some of the questions has been asked directly, like discuss the geophysical characteristic of circum-Pacific zone, then define mantle plume and explain its role in plate tectonics, direct question of the plate related discussion. Then how are the fjords formed, land formed, why do they constitute some of the most picturesque areas of the world. Then briefly mention the alignment of major mountain ranges of the world and explain their impact on local weather conditions with examples. So the questions in the mains examination are being directly asked. So questions will not be very complicated questions from this topic of geomorphology. Similarly, when you will look out the questions of PT prelims, there also you will find the questions are direct questions, like this was the question of last year where they have just asked the materials which comes out at the time of volcanic eruption. Similarly, how the behavior of seismic waves. So in earthquake, how the seismic waves, P waves and S waves behave. So the question has been asked on that. So questions happens to be very direct. Now before ending the session, let's quickly look out that some of the reference books which you need to look out to cover this topic. So, all the students, whether someone newbies or someone who is in the preparation for quite long time, to prepare to cover the topics of the geomorphology, the only reference you needed is the class 11th NCERT Fundamentals of Physical Geography. So, if you will read the fundamentals of physical geography, all the chapters you will find, all the topics you will find is covered in that book, and you are not supposed to look out any other extra reading. If your concepts are clear, most of the questions can be answered. Anyone who has covered these NCERTs and if they want to read something extra, so they can refer the book of G.C. Leong. So, G.C. Leong book can be referred, but only when you have completed the NCERT. One more thing, whenever you are covering the topics of the geomorphology, it is very important that you should have understanding of some of the physical aspects of the different part of the world. That is why the world mapping is also important for this topic. And for the world mapping, to knowing the different mountains, different volcano, different earthquake, it is important to use the atlas. So, you can use any of the atlas, but my suggestion will be to go with the Orient Black Swan School Atlas. So, you can refer to the Orient Black Swan School Atlas, most of the locations you will find. So, mapping plus NCERT will be more than sufficient to cover this topic. So, that is all for this topic of geomorphology. Thank you.